Let us continue our session on the quantity estimation. Here I have the AutoCAD plan. So we have done the calculations for the quantities of earthwork in excavation, and we have also got the total value of 64.23 meter cube of total value is the amount of excavation to be made. Now moving on to the next part, which is of course the lime concrete. So we have to, once the excavation is made, we have to go on with the laying of lime concrete. Assume that you have made the excavation all around and you have to lay different uh, width and thickness of lime concrete as PCC, like the base course or the base layer, so that we can have a even surface for the footing to start with. So if you consider the main wall of 30 centimeter thick, the width of lime concrete is 0.9 meter and the thickness is 0.3 meter, whereas when you consider the 20 centimeter thick wall, that is the partition wall in the front veranda and the back veranda, and also the partition wall for the bath area, the thickness of the wall is 20 centimeter, and the foundation or the lime concrete, for which is the width is 0.6 meter and the depth is 0.2 meters. So let us start with the first one, which is lime concrete in foundation, drawing room and left hand side bedroom. As I told you, because it is long wall short wall method, what we have to do is we have to individually do the calculations. And of course, if I do the individual calculations, I have to do the same repetition for number of rooms. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 separate areas are there. I have to do it separately 7 times. In order to avoid that, I have considered this as one area. So drawing room and bedroom number 1. It's the first area under which long walls. So let us start with number of long walls. We have 1 and 2. Totally we have 2 number of long walls. The number becomes 2. And in order to calculate the length, because it is a long wall and I have to construct the first PCC, I mean lime concrete in the foundation, the first layer, which is equal to the width of the excavation. And of course the length calculation is very easy, because it is the first layer and the first course. There is no deductions to be made or nothing to be considered. If this is the area of excavated, I mean this is the excavated area, I just have to go on laying the lime concrete. How to do that? Overall area, or how I need to calculate the area of this rectangle. How to calculate the area? So I know the center to center distance, center of this wall to the center of this wall, I know it, which is nothing but the center line in the section also remains the same. I know this area. So if you consider the center line to the left hand side and to the right hand side, you have 0.45 meters on either side, because the total width is 0.9 meter. Now in order to calculate the area, entire area of this rectangle, I need the full length. I'm repeating, full length is the actual length. This is not the actual length. This is just the center line length, center to center distance. But I want the actual length. Actual length multiplied by the width. Of course, I know the width. Width is 0.9 meters. Width is 0.9 meters, and I don't know the full length, because this one which is indicated in red color is the center line length, but I want the total length. Total length is indicated in green color. This end to this end is the total length. So how to calculate that? This is equal to, I mean this remaining width is equal to half of the length of this rectangle. I'm going to draw another rectangle over here and one more rectangle over here. This remaining portion is equal to half of width of this rectangle. What is this rectangle? This rectangle is nothing but the PCC, I mean the lime concrete of short wall. So though because it is 30 centimeter wall, it will also have 0.9 meter width lime concrete pad. So what I have to do, I have to consider this additional length which is missing over here, which is equal to center line length plus 0.9 by 2 here and plus 0.9 by 2 on the other side as well. So the total length is given by 10.6 is the center to center distance plus 0.9 by 2 on the this side and plus 0.9 by 2 on the other side. Totally 0.9 by 2 plus 0.9 by 2 becomes 0.9. So the total length is equal to, the actual length is 11.5 meters. Now I know the length of the rectangle. Once I know the length of the rectangle, which is this length, I've already calculated the length of this line, which is I've got it as 11.5 meter. If I multiplied that with the width, which is given as 0.9 meter here, the width of the lime concrete is given as 0.9 meter, and depth of lime concrete is given as 0.3 meter. You can observe here the thickness of the lime concrete is given as 0.3 meter. Now the product of these things will give me the total quantity. So the total quantity of lime concrete required to lay or to construct this particular layer of lime concrete, the total quantity required is 6.1 meter cube. Now I'm done with two walls. I have one wall over here and I have another wall over here. The next is to calculate the short wall. I have one short wall over here, another short wall over here, and another short wall over here. So totally three short walls are there. So let me move on to short walls. Numbers are 3. Now I need to calculate the length. So how to draw the let me just draw the rectangle or the area where I have to provide lime concrete. Only this much area has to be considered. The area of rectangle is given by, the area of this rectangle is given by this length multiplied by this width. But I know the length from here to here. I know the length from here to here, which is the center line length. I know this length, which is the center line length, but I don't want that length. I just want the actual length. What is the actual length? This is the actual length. In order to calculate actual length, you deduct this part here and you deduct this part here. On both the sides, if I deduct this part, I get the actual length. How to deduct that? So this width I know, which is 0.9 meter. So half of that width is this extra additional width, and here also half of that width is the additional width. So deduct from the center line of the short wall, deduct half of this width on left side and half of this width on right side. Total center line distance is 5.3 meter minus 0.9 by 2 on left hand side minus 0.9 by 2 on right hand side will give me 0.9 in total. The actual length is 4.4 meters. Once I know the actual length, this length is 4.4 meter, multiply that with the width. Width of the rectangle is nothing but width of the piece lime concrete layer. So width is same 0.9 meter and thickness is also same. Thickness of layer of lime concrete is same 0.3 meter. Now the total quantity is the product of these things. 3.56 meter cube of lime concrete is required in order to construct the first layer, or in order to lay the first layer of lime concrete. This is short wall number 1, 2 and 3. In order to lay 3 layers of first lay, in order to lay the first layer of lime concrete, we require total amount of 3.56 meter cube of lime concrete. Moving on to the next portion, that is bedroom on right hand side. Let us finish off the erase these things because we are done with the calculation of this, but let it be there because I am moving towards the right hand side bedroom, where we have bedroom number 2 and bedroom number 3. I've considered this as the second area. Now when I look at this as a whole area, I have considered this as the long wall and this as the long wall. So I have totally 2 numbers of long wall. Under long walls I have 2 numbers. Now I need to calculate the length. So length, I have calculated center to center distance from here to here. Now I need to draw the rectangle, for which, let us say, this will be this is how I have to lay the lime concrete. But since I have already laid the lime concrete for this particular wall, which is the long wall of area 1, I don't have to consider this area. So what I have to do, only this portion I have to lay now. How to consider that is, I know the center to center distance. I just have to deduct this part. This part is half of this width. This width is known 0.9 meter. So center to center distance. So in order to I'm going to copy this rectangle over here. So, and also copy the center line. When I consider this rectangle, I need the actual length of the rectangle, but I don't have the actual length. I just have the center to center distance. This is the actual length of length multiplied by this width. So what is this length? How to calculate? I have to deduct this much and I have to add this much over here. So what is this deduction? Half of this width, which is 0.9 by 2. I'm going to subtract from the center line 0.9 by 2, and there is missing portion at the end, which is nothing but again half of this width. So 0.9 by 2. So if I do the calculations, 9.6 is the center to center distance. At one end I'm going to subtract, at the other end I'm going to add. So minus 0.9 by 2 plus 0.9 by 2 cancel each other, and we'll be remaining with 9.6 meter as the length of the rectangle. Now, width of the lime concrete is, of course, it remains same 0.9 meters, and thickness of the lime concrete layer remains same 0.3 meter. The product of these things is the total quantity 5.18 meter cube. Once we have these things, we'll move on to the short wall calculation, because we have considered both the long walls and there are no other long walls remaining. So let us move on to the short walls. So if I consider this area again, I have already done the excavation and laid the lime concrete in first layer for this particular wall, so I don't have to consider this as the short wall. The only remaining short walls are this one and this one. So there are totally two numbers of short walls. Short walls, two numbers. Now I need to calculate the length, for which I'm going to copy this again and paste it here. Let us assume we have laid the PCC again here. I mean the lime concrete. I have calculated the center to center distance here and here. Now I am supposed to lay the lime concrete only to this area, which is highlighted in yellow color. But I know the length. This is the center line length, and this is the area I need to lay the lime concrete. I want the actual length. Actual length is from this end to this end is the actual length. Length multiplied by actual width. Width I know, of course, it is 0.9 meter. I don't know the length. Length I know center to center distance, which is given as 4.8 meters, which we have already calculated. This length I know 4.8 meters. Deduct this width, I'll get the actual length. So what is that width? So half of this width and half of this width. So 4.8 minus 0.9 by 2 minus 0.9 by 2, which is equal to 3.9 meter is the actual length. Actual length multiplied by width of the footing. Width of the footing, lime concrete is 0.9 meters, and thickness is of 0.3 meters. Total quantity is product of these things 2.11 meter. So moving on to the next area, which is the front veranda. When we consider the front veranda, this is also done. Let me just copy paste it. When I look at the front veranda, this area is also done. I'm going to mark a rectangle for our reference. We have laid the PCC and done the excavation and laid the lime concrete. The next part, when we consider the front veranda, I have to go on with the calculations for the long wall, partition wall, and the short wall. Of course, it is also a partition wall of thickness 20 centimeter. What I have to do is, long walls, there are only one number, there are no two numbers, because I have already considered this wall under bedroom area only. So when we consider front veranda, it is just one long wall we have, so number is 1. Now I need to calculate the length. In order to calculate the length, it is very important to understand the concept here, which I have explained it already. Let me explain it again. This is one indicated in red color is the lime concrete of main wall, and this yellow color is indicating the first layer of footing, and over which we have another layer. Let us assume we have another layer of the footing, second footing. This is lime concrete, this is first footing, and this is second footing. Here we have lime concrete, first footing, and of course Above it, we have, let us assume we have another layer of second footing. Now, I'm going to draw this reference line so that let us understand where exactly the overlap is happening. This thickness of 0.2 meters, the thickness of the lime concrete of partition wall is just 0.2 meters, that is 20 centimeter, is going to overlap. I've drawn the reference line, you can observe it is overlapping the second layer, exactly the second layer. How do I know? Because I have AutoCAD here, I'm just going on with the reference lines. That is also okay. Let us do the calculation. 0.2 plus 0.2 plus 0.1, we get 0.5 meter. At 0.5 meter, what is the width of the footing available? Let us check. This is 0.3 first plinth from the natural ground level, and of course plus 0.2 is total depth is 0.5 meter, and at 0.5 meter I have second layer of footing. So what I have to do is I have to do the deduction for that particular item. I know the center to center distance. It is 9.65 meters. Let me go back here. The center to center distance is this one. Now I need to do the actual rectangle is this one. Let me indicate in green color. So I need to know the area of this rectangle. In order to calculate the area, I need to deduct this width and add additional width which is missing here, right? So that will give me the actual length. That will give me the actual length multiplied by the width will give me the total area of this rectangle. Of course, multiplied by depth will give us the volume. Now, in order to deduct this, be careful because it is not overlapping 0.9 meter area. Why are we deducting? Because something is overlapping, which is already done. I need to do the deduction, right? Now, this is going to overlap this area or this portion. Additional length beyond this area is going to overlap with second footing of the main wall. So I know the second footing. Second footing width is 0.5 meter. If the second footing comes something like this, let us say this is the second footing. And this width, whatever you are able to see from this point to this point, this width is 0.5 meter. And this extension is exactly 50% of this width. So in order to deduct it, what I have to do, center line distance minus half of this second footing width plus at the other end, I have to add the footing of this one. Let us say I'm going to construct a footing over here. Yeah, remaining portion. Yeah, this is the remaining portion. How to consider this remaining portion? It is, let me go back to AutoCAD here, which is half of this. I'm going to just draw the center line here. This is the center line beyond which I have half of the width of lime concrete, which is 0.6 by 2. That is what is shown here. Center to center distance minus 0.5 by 2, that is the second layer of the main wall thickness divided by 2 is this value, this portion. I'm going to subtract this. So I'll get the point from here, 9.65 minus 0.5 by 2 plus this missing portion here. How do I know what is the length, remaining length? Come back over here. If I drop a center line over here, I've reached till this point. The remaining portion is this width, 0.6 by 2. I'm going to add it here, which is missing. So the total length or the actual length will be 9.7 meters. Once I get the length, the width of the first layer, the lime concrete is of course 0.6 meter for partition wall. Consider that as 0.6. Height or depth is 0.2 meters. 0.2 meter is the depth of first layer. And the total quantity is of course the product of these things, 1.16 meter cube. Moving on to the short walls. How many number of short walls are there? Let's check. In the front veranda, there is only one short wall. Now it is very important to consider what is the remaining portion. Let me use some other color. Yes. I know the center to center distance. This is the center to center distance, but the actual area of concreting, lime concreting, is only this much. But this center line is beyond this area of rectangle, right? So I need to calculate what is the actual length. How to calculate the actual length is from here to here. I have to deduct this portion and I have to deduct this portion. What is this portion? This portion is half of this width and the bottom portion is half of this width. These two widths are not same. This is main wall and this is partition wall. This is main wall width is 0.9 meter, the lime concrete width is 0.9 meter, and this width is 0.6 meter. So I know the center to center distance. So of course the number of short walls are numbers are 1, and the center to center distance is 2.25 meter, which we have already calculated, minus 0.5 by 2 on this side and 0.6 by 2 on the other side. How are we doing that? Why are we considering 0.5 on this side is because, again, when you consider the short wall side or 20 centimeter thick wall, it is going to overlap the width of second footing, not the width of the lime concrete. Lime concrete is not going and overlapping with the lime concrete of main wall. Rather, it is just overlapping the second layer. As you can observe here, it is going to overlap the second layer. I've just drawn the thickness, same thicknesses. As I was showing in the previous class or previous session also, let me do the same thing again here. I'll just do the overlapping so that we can understand it better. Now, if we look at these things, I'm going to move the bottom of the lime concrete of partition wall and overlap that with this value, this area. You can observe it is overlapping with the second layer of footing. It is overlapping with the second layer of footing. So I am deducting the second layer again. So 2.25 minus width of the second layer of footing of main wall, which is over here. This I need to consider. This width is 0.5 meter by 2. Half of this width is 0.5 by 2 minus 0.6 by 2. Why minus 0.6 by 2? The width of this is 0.6 meter. Half of this is 0.6 by 2. So if you consider this this arrangement here, the actual length, this is the actual length, center line minus of this width, at the top it is 0.5 by 2, and at the bottom it is 0.6 by 2. We will get the actual length as 1.7 meter, and of course the width and depth remain same, 0.6 meter and 0.2 meters, and the total quantity is the product of these things. We get it. Moving on to the next item, which is back veranda. The backside veranda, we have the same case. We have 120 centimeter long wall and we have two short walls of 20 centimeter thick. Let us start with long wall now. So this is the center line length, which we have already calculated, and I need to make lime concrete for this area only, and this is the center to center distance. I'm going to copy it. There is additional length here and there is some length missing over here. What I'll do is I'll subtract this length and I'll add this length. But in order to subtract this, it is not 0.9 meter which is overlapping. Again, the same concept, this portion is overlapping the width of 0.5 meter. So the calculation remains same, almost same as in case of the previous case. The number of long walls are 1. The length is center to center distance is 9.65 minus 0.52 for this wall, minus 0.5 by 2 for this particular portion which is already laid, plus 0.6 by 2 is over here. This region is 0 plus 0.6 by 2. We'll get the actual length is 9.7 meters and the width of lime concrete is same, 0.6, and the thickness is 0. Total quantity is 1.16. It is same as the front veranda. There is no change except for short walls. We have differences because in front veranda we just had one short wall, but here we have two short walls. This is number one and this is number two. Again, here also the concept remains almost same. I just have to do the let me do it for one. So this is the actual area of concreting which I have to do, which I'm going to copy paste it here. So this is the only area which I have to do the concreting. Additional length is there because it is the center to center distance. I need to calculate the actual length. In order to calculate the actual length, subtract this much and subtract this much. So what is this? This is 0.6 by 2 because it remains same. It is overlapping with 0.6 meter on the right hand at the top. And when you consider the bottom area, it is going to uh, replace, or it is going to overlap with 0.5 meter area, not 0.9. It is going to overlap with 0.5 meter area. So there are two numbers of short walls. The length calculation, center to center distance is 2.75 meter and 0.5 meter by 2 for the main wall and 0.6 by 2 for the partition wall. If we do the deductions, we'll get the actual length as 2.2 meters. The width and depth remain same. The total quantity is going to be 0.53 meters. Now after this, I can calculate the total quantity because we have done the calculations for area 1, 2, 3 and 4. All the areas are done and the total quantity is given by the summation of these things. Starting from here, drawing and left hand side bedroom 6.21 plus 3.56, both long wall and short wall, and bedroom right hand side, long wall 5.18 and short wall 2.11, and front veranda 1.16 and 0.2 for both long wall and short wall. And totally here we have addition of these two things, we have 20.11 meter cube of lime concrete which is required. So this is how we do the calculations. Now we have done the calculations for lime concrete. If we go to the question which is mentioned here at the top, we are done the calculations for earthwork in excavation in foundation, lime concrete in foundation. We also have the next part which is first class brickwork in cement mortar for foundation and plinth. So when I talk about foundation and plinth, if we consider the main wall, that is 30 centimeter thick wall, we have first layer of footing, second layer of footing and plinth. When we consider the partition wall, we just have one layer of footing and over which we have directly the plinth. So we have to do the calculation separately as we have done for lime concrete and excavation, separately for main wall and separately for partition wall. Now let us move on to the calculation of first class brickwork in foundation and plinth for drawing room and left hand side bedroom area. Let me erase these things so that we'll not have any confusions. Yeah, we have to again start with long wall, short wall, the same procedure. There are no changes with the procedure. Again, let us consider this area. I'm going very quick now to follow the things. So we have totally two numbers of long walls. So let me start with the first footing. Under long walls, the first footing, total two numbers. This is long wall number 1 and this is long wall number 2. So the length calculation, I know the center to center distance. Center to center distance is 10.6 meter for this long wall. And when I consider the first footing, the width of the first footing is 10.6 meter. 10.6 meter is the center to center distance, and I need to consider this as the area of first footing. I'm going to copy it right next to this. So I need the actual length. I just have the center to center distance. Actual length is greater than the center to center length because it is the long wall. I need to add this portion at the top as well as at the top and bottom. I need to add some values, and what are those values is, if I go back here, we know if I just draw the center line for this particular case, from the center line let us say this is the center line and this is the center line. Beyond the center line I have half of the width, and beyond the center line I have half of the width. So I'm considering the first footing, half of the width of the footing is remaining or missing, so which is 0.6 by 2. So length is 0.6 by 2 on either sides. 10.6 plus 0.6 by 2 plus 0.6 by 2 will get us 0.6 in total. So the total length is, I think I made a mistake here. Let me change it. 11.2 meters, right? Yeah, 11.2 is the actual value, 11.4. Yeah. So 10.6 plus 0.6, we get it as 11.2 as the total length. Width of the item which we are doing the calculation for, the first footing, the width is 0.6 meter, and height or depth of the first footing is given here, 0.2 meters. In the section it is mentioned 0.2 meter. The total quantity is product of these things, 2.69 meter cube. Moving on to the second footing now. I have not started the short wall calculation already. I'm not going to do the short wall calculation now itself. I'll take up the second footing. This is the first footing, then the second footing, and the plinth. And later on, we'll move on to the short wall calculation. So now numbers remain same. Number of long walls are totally total two numbers. And the length, in order to do the calculation of length, 10.6 is the center to center distance plus 0.5 meter. Why I'm considering 0.5 meter is because the width of the second footing is 0.5 meter. So plus 0.5 by 2 plus 0.5 by 2 on either side will get us the total value of 0.5 meter, and the length value is 11.1 meters. And of course these two quantities remain same. The width and the depth, which is we have already considered the width as 0.5 meter, it is going to remain same, and depth is also mentioned as 0.2 meter, so it is going to remain same. So these values, the product of these values will get it as 2.22 meter cube. Moving on to the next item, that is the plinth. In plinth again, there are two number of long walls, and the length calculation, center to center distance is known already, 10.6 meter, and width, half of the width on, let's say this itself is the plinth area. I know the center to center distance, by I want actual length. Actual length, if you observe, there is some length missing here and some length missing here. So add the width, half of width on top and add half of width at bottom, which is 10.6 plus 0.4 by 2 plus 0.4 by 2. 0.4 is the width of the plinth, which is mentioned here. So the total value will be, total actual length of the footing or the plinth will be 11 meters. 11 meters is the total length, multiplied by width is 0.4 meters. Width of the plinth is 0.4, and depth of the plinth, below the ground level there is 0.3 meter, and above the ground level there is 0.6 meter. Together the total value is 0.9 meters. There is nothing like below the ground level we have to do separately and above the ground level we have to do separately. We can consider it together. Put it together, we get it as 0.9 meters. The total quantity is 7.90 meter cube. So this, whatever I have done the calculations for, is only for drawing area and bedroom number 1, and that too for long walls only. We have to do the same thing for short walls as well. Short walls, let's do this calculation for short wall. I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Let us assume the first footing, second footing and plinth is already done. Remaining length is only this much. Remaining portion is only this much. Now in order to do that, let me draw the center line distance. I know the center line length, and I know the actual area of footing, second footing, which has to be done now. Let's say this is the center line length. I don't want the center line length, I want the actual length. Actual length is from here to here, so I have to deduct this length and I have to deduct this length. So what is this width? The total width is known here, the total width is known here, which is first footing 0.6, 0.5 and 0.4 for second and plinth. So we'll do the subsequent calculations. There are three numbers of short walls. This is short wall number 1, short wall number 2 and short wall number 3. So that is why there are three numbers in order to do the calculation for length. First one is 5.3 meter is the center to center distance, minus 0.6 by 2 on left hand side and minus 0.6 by 2 on right hand side. Put together 0.6 by 2 minus 0.6 by 2 will get it as 0.6. The total value is 0.6 and actual length is 4.7 meters. And width of the first footing is 0.6 meter, height or depth of the first footing is 0.2 meters, and the quantity of these things is 2.69 meter cube. Moving on to the second footing, of course, there are three number of short walls. The length calculation 5.3 minus of 0.5 by 2 on left side, minus of 0.5 by 2 on right side. We have minus 0.5 in total deduction for the center line length. The actual length is 4.8 meters. Length is known. Length multiplied by width is 0.5 multiplied by height will get the volume. The total volume multiplied by such numbers will give us the total quantity. So this is the total quantity. Moving on to the plinth. Plinth also we have same numbers, three numbers, and the length for the plinth it is this calculation remains same. 5.3 is the center to center distance minus 0.4. So minus 0.4 by 2 on left hand side minus 0.4 by 2 on right hand side. We'll get the calculation. The actual length is 4.9 multiplied by width is 0.4 and depth is plinth above the ground level and below the ground level. Put together we have 0.9 meter as discussed earlier. The total quantity is 5.29. This is the end for drawing and left hand side bedroom only. Whatever we have done is for drawing and left hand side bedroom only. We have to do the same thing for the remaining areas also. Let us so since there were some changes to incorporate these values. So 1.69 is the product of these values and 1.44 for this one and 5.29 for this one. Moving on to the next item, which is the next area, bedroom on right hand side, bedroom area, bedroom number 2 and bedroom number 3. So the first footing, there are two numbers of long walls. This is long wall 1 and this is long wall 2. We have two such numbers. The length, we have to do the calculation for length. So the length is center to center distance is now 9.6 meter and I'm going to draw the rectangle for this. This is the actual first footing which I have to lay now. So in order to do that, let me highlight it in some other color, red color. But I know the center to center distance. It is not always as I have told you in the previous sessions also. If the cases are simple, we just can keep on adding. If we do not have any overlaps happening, as it is happening in this case, we can directly, as a thumb rule, we can, in order to calculate the length, we can add the width of the item we are dealing with for the length calculation under long walls and do the deduction for short walls. But here, this is special cases where we have junctions and overlap is happening. So now in order to calculate the actual length, we have to copy this area. Let me just copy this area somewhere over here. Now there is additional length beyond this area and there is some length missing. This is the actual length. So deduct from here and add over here. How to do that? That is shown here. 9.6 is the center to center distance minus 0.6 by 2. What is minus 0.6 by 2? This is the actual width of the first footing which is already laid, which is 0.6 meter of main wall, first footing. So 0.6 by 2 is deducted at this end and at the other end we have to add 0.6 by 2. So the total length is 11.4 meters. Two numbers of long walls and the actual length is 9.6 meter. Yeah, here also I have made some mistake. It is 9.6 meters. Here also it is supposed to be 9.6 meters. Here also it is supposed to be 9.6 meters only. Two numbers and length is already calculated 9.6 meters. The width of the footing we have already considered in the calculation. Let's check once again. First footing is 0.6 meter and the depth of first footing is 0.2 meters and total quantity is the product of these things, which is 2.31 meter cube. Moving on to the next footing, the second layer of footing. This is the second layer of footing. The concept remains same. even this, let's say the total width is 0.5 meter here. This is trying to overlap this. If I consider center to center distance, so center line will give me only area of this much, but I don't want this area because this area is already done. This area is already constructed, and I'm not going to stop exactly here. So this will be the actual width of the footing. So deduct 0.5 by 2 on left hand side and add 0.5 by 2 on right hand side to the center line length to get the actual length. So 9.6 minus 0.5 by 2 plus 0.5 by 2 is going to get us again the same value, 9.6 meters. That is the total length multiplied by the width of the second footing is 0.5 meter, depth of the second footing is 0.2 meter, and the total quantity is the product of these things, 1.90 meter cube. Moving on to the last item, which is plinth under long walls for bedroom number 2 and bedroom number 3. Total numbers are 2, there are no changes, and the length is going to be same because the center line is same and the steps are same. 0.4 by 2, subtract 0.4 by 2 on left and add 0.4 by 2 on right hand side. We get the length as 9.6 and the width of the plinth is 0.4 meters, and height or depth again it is going to remain same because it is main wall, 0.6 meter above ground level and 0.3 meter below ground level. Total value is 0.9 meters, and the total quantity we get it as 6.91 meter cube of first class brickwork in foundation and plinth for long walls under bedroom number 2 and bedroom number 3 only. Moving on to the short walls now. There are two numbers of short walls. This is short wall number 1 and this is short wall number 2. Let me copy this and paste it here. Let's assume we have done the first footing, second footing and plinth for these walls. Now I need area of this rectangle only. In order to calculate that, I know the center to center distance. But if I do the calculation of area for this length, I'll get more area and more quantity, but I just have to do the calculation for this end to this end. So how to do that? This length, I know the center line length, deduct this portion and deduct this portion. This additional portion beyond the areas are nothing but half of the total width of these two rectangles. So length of center to center distance is 4.8 meter. So 0.6 by 2 at the bottom and 0.6 by 2 at the top. So the total value is 4.2 meters. Moving on, the width is 0.6 meter. Width of the first footing is shown as 0.6 meters, and of course the depth is 0.2 meters, and the total value is the product of these things, the total quantity. And second footing, we have the same things. Everything is going to repeat like the procedure. We shall repeat the same procedure. The number of short walls are not going to change. There are two numbers, and the length is 4.8 meter is the center to center distance, minus 0.5 meter is width. Why are we subtracting 0.5 meter? Is because half of the width of this rectangle and half of the width of this rectangle. What is the width of second footing? It is 0.5 meter. Now let us assume the width of this as 0.5 meter and width of this rectangle as 0.5 meter. So deduct 0.5 by 2 at the top and deduct 0.5 by 2 at the bottom. We'll get the total deduction as 0.5 meter. The total value is 4.3 now. So the length is known, width is 0.5 meters, and depth of the second footing is known, 0.2 meters, and the total quantity is 0.86 meter cube. This is the total quantity. And plinth, moving on to the next value, I hope the procedure is understood now. I'm just going on with the values directly. So now in order to calculate the length, 4.2 minus 0.4, we'll get it as 4.4 is the length, and width of the plinth is 0.4 and depth of the plinth is 0.9 meter, and the total value is product of these things, 3.17 meter cube. So once we have done the calculations for long wall, short wall under area 2, the next area is front veranda and back veranda. So here we have to be careful. Front veranda, long walls, footing, there is only one footing. There are no two footings. There is first layer of footing and over which we have plinth. So there are only one number of long walls. This is one long wall we have here. This is one long wall. And in order to calculate the length, it is 9.65 is the center to center distance minus 0.4 by 2 plus 0.4 by 2. Why are we considering 0.4 by 2 is because, as I told you previously, if I just overlap this, why are we doing the deductions is because there is overlap happening which is already constructed, and I don't want to do the construction, or I don't want to consider the quantities twice. So look carefully. The first layer, this is the first layer. I'm going to highlight this in some other color. Red color. Red color is overlapping some area of the main wall. Let's check what it is overlapping. It is overlapping the plinth. It is overlapping the plinth area, right? Width it is overlapping is 0.4 meter. Let us also check whether it is correct or not by doing the calculation from below the ground level. So below the ground level, yeah, let's see here. Below the ground level, if I consider the first footing, the plinth is there up to 0.1 meter plus 0.2 meter. The depth of the first footing is going to start at 0.3 meter from the ground level. Similarly, if I consider here at 0.3 meter, exactly at 0.3 meter, I have plinth area. I mean, plinth is starting from 0.3 meter from the ground level here, and first footing is starting from 0.3 meter from ground level here. So, in order to do the calculations of length 9.65, it is the concept remains same. The rectangle, drawing the areas, everything is same. This is the actual length I require, and this is the center to center distance I have here. And I need to do the calculations for this. This is the center to center distance, but I want the actual length. So actual length is this one. Now I have to deduct this width. So this width is nothing but, if I lay this, and it is going to overlap the 0.4 meter area. So this width is 0.4 and half of this is 0.4 by 2. And at the end I have to add 0.4 by 2, because if you consider this as the center line, the width is 0.4 meter for the first footing. We have reached half, the other half is not reached. So that is why it is shown here 9.65 minus 0.4 by 2 plus 0.4 by 2. We get it as 9.65 itself as the actual length, multiplied by the width is 0.4 meter. Width of the first footing of front veranda is 0.4 meter, and height or depth is also given as 20 centimeter. You can observe here the depth of partition wall first footing thickness is 0.2 meters. The quantity is product of these things, which is 0.77. I don't think it's 0.77. Let me just check 1 second. Moving on to the next item, which is plinth. After first footing, we directly have the plinth. Again, if I consider the plinth, there are one number of long walls. This is one number of long wall. We just have one number, and the length it is going to be the same. So 0.4 by minus 0.4 by 2 and plus 0.3 by 2. How do we do that? Let's check. At one end, it is going to overlap with 0.4 by 2. This width is 0.4 by 2. So that is why I'm going to subtract 0.4 by 2 here. As I told you, if I just overlap this with this area, now we are considering the plinth. Let me change the colors for this. I'm now considering the plinth area. So plinth will overlap. Of course, the plinth of both has to overlap with each other. That is why, as you can observe, plinth of this and plinth of this are overlapping. But if you observe what we have done, 9.65 minus 0.4 by 2, because on the left hand side there is plinth of wall 0.4 meters. So I need to deduct this length, which is the additional length beyond the rectangle. So we have deducted it as 0.4 by 2. But at the other end, there is some length missing. And how to consider that? Which is equal to half of the width of plinth, which we have considered now. The plinth of the partition wall is just 0.3 meters. So that is why 9.65 minus 0.4 by 2 plus 0.3 by 2 will get the actual length. So once the actual length is calculated, multiply that with the width. Width of the plinth partition wall is 0.3 meter. Height or depth is 0.7 meter. Below the ground level it is 0.1 meter, and above the ground level it is 0.6 meter. You can observe the above the ground level for main wall and partition wall, the depth are same. The plinth depths are same. So the total depth is 0.7 and the total quantity is these things. I mean the product of these things, we get it as 2.02 meter cube, right? So moving on to the next item. Yeah, we'll look into that item of calculations, that is the shortfall for front veranda, in the next session.